The Republic's control room pulsed with the blue light of holograms as Mace Windu adjusted his Jedi cloak. Yoda watched through the window, his ears moving slightly as he processed the received information. The mission to UTAPAU would be crucial. General Grievous had been located and needed to be eliminated before he escaped again. Windu accepted the task without hesitation, his expression one of absolute determination as he walked toward the boarding platform. Obi-Wan remained in Coruscant, something unusual for him who always preferred to be on the front lines. The Council had decided that his presence would be more useful in the capital, assisting in investigations about possible Sith threats that still lurked in the Senate's shadows. Anakin Skywalker walked through the Jedi Temple corridors, his mind disturbed by recent visions that haunted him during sleep. During their last meeting, the Chancellor had spoken about powers that few knew, abilities that could save those we love from death. The way his eyes gleamed when mentioning such secrets made something awaken in Anakin's consciousness. He remembered Obi-Wan's words about the Sith, about how they manipulated and seduced the unwary. Palpatine's behavior pattern began to fit perfectly with everything he had learned about the Dark Lords. Terror took hold of Anakin when the full realization hit his mind like lightning piercing through darkness. Palpatine wasn't just interested in the Sith. He was the Sith Lord they had been searching for so long. Everything made sense now, the political maneuvers, the prolonged war, the way he was always one step ahead of the Council. His hands trembled as he walked quickly through the corridors. He needed to tell someone. He needed to act before it was too late. Obi-Wan was the person he trusted most. His master would understand the gravity of the situation. Anakin activated his communicator and tried to locate Kenobi, but he wasn't in the temple. Obi-Wan piloted his Jedi fighter through the skies of Coruscant. He had noticed changes in Anakin in recent weeks, a tension that went beyond the normal pressures of galactic conflict. His path took him near the district where Padme Amidala resided. The communicator emitted an urgent signal. Anakin's voice sounded tense and desperate on the other side. "Kenobi, I need to speak with you immediately. It's about the Chancellor." The message was charged with urgency. Obi-Wan frowned, realizing that something extremely serious had happened. "I'm near Senator Amidala's quarters. We can meet there," Anakin suggested, his voice revealing growing anxiety. Obi-Wan agreed, altering his fighter's course toward the building's landing platform. He landed smoothly while observing another fighter approaching rapidly. Anakin was piloting with evident haste. The two Jedi descended from their ships almost simultaneously. Anakin looked visibly disturbed, his face pale and eyes restless. "Master, we need to talk, and Padme needs to hear this too," he said as they walked hurriedly to the elevator. Obi-Wan didn't question, recognizing the seriousness in his former Padawan's voice. The door to Padme's quarters opened, revealing the senator with an expression of surprise seeing both Jedi. "Anakin, Obi-Wan, what happened?" she asked, immediately noticing the tension in the air around them. The three moved to the main room, sitting in a triangular arrangement that allowed direct eye contact between all. Anakin looked at Obi-Wan, then at Padme, his clasped hands showing the effort to maintain composure. "I discovered who the Sith Lord we were looking for is," he began, his voice low but firm. "It's Chancellor Palpatine. He revealed knowledge about the dark side that only a Sith could possess. He tried to seduce me with promises of power to save those I love." The silence that followed Anakin's revelation was dense, filling every inch of the room with an almost unbearable tension. Padme brought her hand to her mouth, her wide eyes reflecting the shock and horror of the discovery. Obi-Wan remained motionless for long seconds, processing the information while thousands of memories and past interactions with the Chancellor gained a new and sinister meaning. The Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, the man who orchestrated the entire war, was the enemy they had sworn to destroy. Anakin observed both, waiting for some reaction, some guidance on what to do next. The magnitude of the situation was overwhelming, as Palpatine was not only politically powerful, but apparently mastered the dark side of the Force in ways few could imagine. "We have to inform the Council immediately. He needs to be arrested," Anakin affirmed with conviction, rising from the chair as if ready to act at that exact moment. Padme shook her head slowly, her political experience bringing a different perspective to the matter. "Anakin, It's not that simple. He has the Senate completely in his hands. Dozens of senators support him blindly. She explained with a controlled voice despite the evident fear. Any precipitous move could turn him into a martyr and strengthen his position even more. Obi-Wan partially agreed, raising his hand in a thoughtful gesture while considering all variables. Padme is right about the danger, but we cannot allow him to remain free knowing what we know now. We need to surround him with all the forces the Republic can offer, Obi-Wan continued, his voice carrying the caution that differentiated him from Windu. We cannot be so direct. This requires strategic planning and rapid execution. He has connections throughout the galaxy, resources we can't even imagine. We need to neutralize everything simultaneously. Padme leaned forward, her hands nervously adjusting the folds of her dress. If we act too openly, he can use his emergency powers to declare the Jedi as traitors, she warned, knowing well the political manipulation that Palpatine mastered. Anakin looked from one to the other, frustration growing in his chest at the complexity of the situation when everything seemed so clear to him. Padme extended her hand instinctively, holding Anakin's hands in a gesture of comfort and support that was completely natural to her. Her fingers intertwined with his, transmitting a silent message that they were in this together. Obi-Wan observed the interaction, his eyes narrowing slightly as he registered the obvious intimacy of the gesture. Padme noticed Kenobi's look and quickly released Anakin's hand, a blush rising up her neck as she tried to maintain composure. The moment of awkward silence was broken by Anakin, who looked directly at his former master. "It's time you knew the truth, Obi-Wan," he said, his voice firm despite the vulnerability of the confession he was about to make. "Padme and I are married," Anakin revealed, observing Obi-Wan's reaction closely as he continued. "We married secretly years ago, and she's expecting our child." Obi-Wan's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: surprise, understanding, and finally a mixture of concern and something that could be interpreted as hurt. "You should have told me, Anakin," he finally said, his voice low but charged with emotion. "We're like brothers, you didn't trust me with this." Anakin lowered his gaze, guilt evident in his eyes as Padme placed her hand on his shoulder in support. "We were afraid of the consequences, Obi-Wan, both for Anakin and for me politically," she explained gently. Obi-Wan rubbed his face with both hands, the weight of all the revelations pressing on him like a mountain. "We'll resolve this later," he finally declared, forcing himself to focus on the immediate threat that Palpatine represented. "Now we need to concentrate on how to deal with the Chancellor before he discovers that we know his true identity." Anakin stood up again, this time walking to the panoramic window that offered a spectacular view of Coruscant. "I'm afraid of what might happen to Padme if things go wrong," he admitted, his voice charged with vulnerability. "I've had nightmares about Padme's death. Everything seems connected to this somehow." Obi-Wan approached him, placing a firm hand on his shoulder in a gesture of solidarity and understanding that transcended their differences. The lights of UTAPAU gleamed as Mace Windu stood over the defeated body of General Grievous. His breathing was controlled despite the intensity of the combat he had just concluded. The cyborg threat had been eliminated, another piece removed from the galactic chessboard that Dooku and his master had built. His communicator emitted an urgent signal. Obi-Wan's message carried an urgency that immediately captured all his attention. "Mace, Anakin discovered the Sith Lord's identity. It's Chancellor Palpatine. We need you in Coruscant immediately." Windu felt the Force tremble around him with the confirmation of suspicions he had maintained for some time, but had never been able to prove. He activated his lightsaber, cutting the communications that Grievous had tried to establish before dying, ensuring that no warning signal reached Palpatine. In Kashyyyk, Yoda interrupted his meditation when Obi-Wan's message reached his pointed ears. "Discovered, the Sith Lord has been," he pronounced to the Wookiees around him, his expression revealing decades of concern finally confirmed. "Chancellor Palpatine, our enemy, has been all this time in the shadows operating," he was. The gravity in his voice made even the most experienced Wookiee warriors fall silent in respect and concern. Yoda activated his communicator, sending orders for his ship to be prepared immediately for the return to the capital. Chewbacca roared a respectful farewell as the Grand Master Jedi walked toward the boarding platform, his staff beating rhythmically against the wooden floor. Dark, the path ahead shows itself, he murmured to himself as he boarded. Padme convened an urgent meeting with Bail Organa and Mon Mothma in a secure location far from the curious ears of the Senate. Anakin accompanied her, his presence as a Jedi offering both protection and credibility to the accusations they were about to present. Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord, Padme revealed bluntly to the two senators, observing their expressions change from disbelief to horror. We need evidence of his manipulations, of how he prolonged this war for his own purposes. Mon Mothma leaned heavily on the table, her political mind already racing through the implications and necessary steps. We need a coordinated strategy, an offensive of arguments in the Senate that exposes him before he can use his emergency powers against us, she suggested, her voice firm despite the shock. Bail Organa began making notes furiously, listing senators who could be trusted and those who were certainly under Palpatine's influence. Anakin observed the discussion, impressed by the speed with which the senators organized a political counteroffensive. We'll have to present concrete evidence, not just accusations, Organa affirmed, looking directly at Anakin. Your testimony as a Jedi will be crucial, General Skywalker. The young Jedi nodded, accepting the responsibility that fell on his shoulders. During the discussion, Organa received an urgent message from his military contacts, information about something called inhibitor chips, implanted in all the clones. His face paled as he read the details, the magnitude of Palpatine's conspiracy revealing itself even greater than they imagined. Anakin, you need to alert the Council about this immediately, Organa exclaimed, sharing the data about the control chips. If Palpatine can activate these devices, the entire clone army will turn against the Jedi simultaneously. Anakin felt his blood freeze in his veins as he understood the extent of the danger. He transmitted the information to Obi-Wan, who was already in the temple awaiting the return of Yoda and Windu. The news spread quickly among the council members. Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon listened with grave expressions as Obi-Wan coordinated the communications. Prepared for an offensive against us, the Jedi must be, Yoda declared as soon as his ship landed at the temple, his ancient wisdom recognizing the pattern of betrayal that was unfolding. Mace Windu arrived shortly after, his imposing presence bringing a sense of renewed urgency to the assembled council. He heard the reports about the inhibitor chips, about the political plans of Organa and Mothma, about each piece of the puzzle that was finally fitting together. We need to act now, before Palpatine realizes that his secret has been discovered, Windu declared, his voice resonating with absolute authority. Obi-Wan was already working on his communicator, sending coded messages to all the Jedi scattered throughout the galaxy. Maximum alert, prepare for possible clone betrayal, return to the temple if possible. The message was clear and direct. Windu was doing the same from his terminal, ensuring that no Jedi remained unaware of the danger approaching like an inevitable storm. The council chamber was illuminated by the golden light of Coruscant's sunset when Yoda and Mace Windu finalized their meticulous preparations to confront Palpatine on his own territory. To the Chancellor's office we will go, arrest the Sith Lord we must, Yoda announced with gravity, his lightsaber hanging on his belt beside his characteristic staff. The decision had been made after brief but intense deliberation among the council members present. Windu knew they would face one of the most powerful Sith the galaxy had ever known, possibly more dangerous even than the ancient Dark Lords of historical records. Simultaneously, in another part of the city, Organa and Mon Mothma prepared for their offensive in the Senate, coordinating their carefully prepared arguments and evidence they had compiled to expose Palpatine publicly. The synchrony was absolutely essential for the plan's success. Both attacks needed to happen at the same time to prevent the Chancellor from using one front to strengthen the other. If the Jedi acted first without political support, Palpatine could portray them as traitors. If the political denunciation came first, he would have time to escape or activate unknown contingencies. The Republic's fate would be decided in the next few hours, and everyone involved felt the crushing weight of this historical responsibility. Obi-Wan observed the preparations, his mind already calculating possible complications and how to deal with them. The strategy was solid. But facing a Sith always involved unpredictable elements that could quickly transform victory into disaster. He thought especially of Anakin and how to keep him safe and stable during these critical moments. "Obi-Wan, you need to stay with Anakin. That's your most important mission now," Windu ordered firmly, his voice leaving no room for argument or questioning. "Young Skywalker is powerful but emotionally vulnerable now. We need to ensure he doesn't do anything impulsive." Kenobi immediately agreed, perfectly understanding the wisdom behind the strategic decision. Anakin had too many personal connections with Palpatine that could fatally compromise his judgment at the crucial moment. The Chancellor had manipulated the young Jedi for years, building trust and dependence that would be difficult to completely break. "Anakin, go to Padme's apartment and stay with her," Obi-Wan suggested when he found his former apprentice in the temple corridors, his voice carrying genuine concern. "I know you're afraid of losing her. Being by her side now is where you need to be, where you can best protect her." The suggestion was perfectly calculated, knowing deeply Anakin's attachment to his wife and the fear that consumed him about losing her as he had seen in his visions. Anakin hesitated only for a moment before agreeing, the emotional logic of personally protecting Padme overriding his desire to be present at Palpatine's arrest. "But Master, what if Palpatine has information about how to save Padme? What if he dies before revealing it?" Anakin questioned, his voice revealing internal conflict. Obi-Wan placed both hands on Anakin's shoulders, looking directly into his eyes. "The answers you seek won't come from a Sith, Anakin. They'll come from the Force and the love you share with Padme. Trust that." Reluctantly, Anakin agreed, recognizing that Obi-Wan was right, that his place was beside Padme at this moment. Anakin and Obi-Wan went together toward Padme's quarters. When they arrived at the luxurious residential building, Padme received them with evident relief, embracing Anakin immediately while Obi-Wan observed with a mixture of understanding and paternal concern. "Master, I should be there when they arrest Palpatine. I feel my place is with the Council," Anakin protested once more, his agitation growing as time passed and the scheduled hour approached. "He may have knowledge about how to save Padme from the visions I have. If he dies before revealing this, I'll never forgive myself." The pain in his voice was real and deep. The fear of losing his wife consumed him more than any other strategic or tactical consideration. Obi-Wan placed both hands firmly on Anakin's shoulders, forcing the young Jedi to meet his gaze and really hear his words. "Anakin, you need to trust the Council, trust me, trust the Force that guides us," Obi-Wan said with gentleness but also with firmness. "Padme needs you here, now by her side, not in some dangerous confrontation where your emotions can be exploited and used against you and against all of us." Padme held Anakin's hand with both of hers, her eyes silently pleading for him to stay by her side at this crucial moment. She could feel the internal battle happening inside her husband through the connection they shared, the pull between the duty he felt toward the Jedi and the love that united them. "Please, Ani, stay with me. I need you here," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly with genuine emotion and fear of what might happen. Obi-Wan observed the interaction carefully, recognizing that Padme had more influence over Anakin at that moment than any direct order he could give. The love between them was obvious and deep, something that transcended the Jedi Code and its restrictions. Slowly, gradually, Anakin relaxed under Padme's touch and Obi-Wan's words, agreeing to remain, although anxiety still shone clearly in his blue eyes. "All right, I'll stay, but promise me you'll be careful, that you won't underestimate Palpatine," he said, looking at Obi-Wan. The Jedi Master nodded solemnly, understanding the sacrifice Anakin was making by staying behind. Mace Windu and Yoda arrived at Palpatine's ornate office with the force of their conviction and the power of the Force flowing through them like a mighty river. The Senate building was in its usual activity, no one suspecting the drama that was about to unfold in the upper levels. The Chancellor received them with his characteristic and apparently benevolent smile, but his yellowed eyes revealed immediate and total recognition of the situation. "So the Jedi finally discovered my little secret," he said with a voice that lost all pretense of weakness as dark power emanated from him like a visible aura. "It took longer than I expected. I must admit," his arrogance was palpable in the air. Windu activated his lightsaber with a characteristic snap, the the purple blade illuminating the luxurious room with its vibrant and threatening light. In the name of the Galactic Senate and the Republic, you are under arrest for treason and for crimes against peace, Chancellor, he declared formally, his voice echoing with judicial authority. Palpatine laughed, a sound that echoed with pure malice and dark rejoicing as blue lightning began to dance between his twisted fingers. I am the Senate, you fool, he responded with absolute disdain, attacking with supernatural speed that few living beings could match. The battle that followed was devastatingly intense. Palpatine demonstrated mastery over the dark side that exceeded even the most pessimistic expectations the Council had formulated. Yoda maintained a strategically defensive position near the exit. His clear function was to contain any escape attempt or Palpatine, sending warning signals to unknown agents. Windu fought with all his skill accumulated in decades of training and combat. His Vapad combat form feeding on Palpatine's own darkness and turning it back against him in a devastating cycle. The duel methodically destroyed the luxurious office furniture, leaving deep burn marks and cuts on all previously impeccable surfaces. Holograms were destroyed, windows cracked under the pressure of the Force, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. Gradually, step by step, Windu's superior experience and unwavering focus began to prevail over Palpatine's ferocity and raw power. Each calculated blow pushed the Sith more onto the defensive, limiting his options until finally, after what seemed an eternity of combat, Palpatine was disarmed and kneeling on the floor, his heavy breathing revealing real exhaustion. He is too dangerous to be left alive, knows too many secrets, Windu declared with absolute conviction. His lightsaber pointed firmly at Palpatine's throat while the defeated Chancellor looked at him with pure and undiluted hatred. Yoda observed in profound silence, thoughtful about the tremendous implications of executing the Republic's elected leader without formal trial or due process. Against our most fundamental principles, this may start a dangerous precedent it may, he murmured, but also knew of the mortal danger that Palpatine represented even imprisoned and apparently contained. Windu didn't hesitate for more than a moment. His extensive experience with Sith and deep knowledge of their almost infinite capacity for manipulation sealed the final decision. With a quick, precise, and definitive movement, he permanently eliminated the threat that Palpatine represented, ending decades of careful manipulation from the shadows. In Padme's elegant apartment, Anakin paced nervously back and forth, worry corroding his inner peace like acid while he anxiously awaited news. Obi-Wan tried to keep him calm, but even the Jedi Master felt the growing tension through the Force. When the message finally arrived through Obi-Wan's communicator succinctly informing of Palpatine's death during the arrest, Anakin felt a complex mixture of relief and renewed terror. Padme, without his knowledge, without the secrets he promised. How am I going to save you from the visions? Anakin exclaimed desperately, his voice charged with despair as he held his wife's hands tightly. Obi-Wan approached calmly but quickly, placing a comforting and firm hand on his former Padawan's shoulder. Anakin, the visions are not absolute, you know this, the future is always in movement and changing, he reminded gently but firmly. You have the Republic's best doctors at your disposal. Padme is strong and healthy, and you have each other. Padme agreed with Obi-Wan, although she herself felt growing fear. She tried to be strong and confident for Anakin and the babies. We'll overcome this together, Ani, as we always have, she said with determination. At that precise moment, as if the universe were responding, she felt a strong and unmistakable contraction. Then another even more intense. Her eyes widened in sudden recognition of what was happening. Anakin, the babies are coming now, she announced, both fear and excitement mixing in her trembling voice. Anakin visibly panicked momentarily, all his skills as a Jedi temporarily forgotten, before Obi-Wan took control of the situation. Obi-Wan immediately activated the apartment's medical droids and called additional medical reinforcements, ensuring that everything was perfectly prepared for the birth. The following hours were the longest and most intense of Anakin Skywalker's life, each minute seeming to drag as he remained by Padme's side throughout the labor. He held her hand firmly, offering words of encouragement and love as she fought through the contractions. The medical droids worked with characteristic efficiency, monitoring every vital sign with precision, while Obi-Wan waited anxiously outside the room, meditating and sending positive energy through the Force. When the first sharp cries of the twins finally echoed through the apartment, Anakin felt tears of pure relief and joy flow freely down his face without shame. Padme had survived childbirth, defying the dark visions that had tormented Anakin for weeks. The babies were healthy and perfect. The dark prophecy of his visions had not materialized because he had made the right choices at critical moments. Luke and Leia were carefully placed in their exhausted but radiant parents' arms, two perfect little miracles that represented pure hope amid the chaos the galaxy had just gone through. Anakin looked at his children with absolute admiration and love, feeling a connection through the Force that was different from anything he had ever experienced. Obi-Wan was invited to enter after giving enough time for the family to have their first private moments, genuinely smiling for the first time in days as he observed the small family that Anakin had built against all odds and rules. Days later, when the political dust had begun to settle and the Republic began the process of reconstruction, in the Jedi Temple a special ceremony was convened despite the extraordinary circumstances the galaxy faced. The Order was in the process of reorganization, discovering the full extent of Palpatine's conspiracy. Anakin Skywalker was respectfully summoned before the complete council, now reunited again after the elimination of the Sith threat that had pursued them for so long. Discovered the Sith Lord, you have, through your constant vigilance and courage in the face of manipulation, Yoda declared solemnly, his voice echoing through the council's sacred chamber. Saved the Jedi Order and the entire Republic. Your decisive action has, without you, lost we would be. Mace Windu, still processing recent events and their long-range implications, approached Anakin with a solemn but respectful expression. Your recognition of the threat when others did not see through the disguise, your choice to alert us instead of acting alone or allowing yourself to be seduced, demonstrates wisdom and maturity beyond your years, he affirmed honestly. To the rank of Jedi Master, with all the rights and responsibilities that this implies, you are promoted Anakin Skywalker. Anakin knelt humbly, accepting the honor with genuine gratitude, knowing deeply that it had been the Force, not just his individual ability, that had guided him on the right path when it mattered most for the entire galaxy. He thought of Padme and the babies waiting for him, and knew he had found the balance he had always sought between duty and love.